Hey guys, it's Pastor Malachi and
Christine, Pastor Christine.
it's Pastor Malachi and Pastor Christine, and we want to welcome you guys tonight to another edition of the Malachi and Christine show, where we're going to continue talking what we were talking about last week, and that's the beginning of episode 2 tonight, Becoming One. And we had a contest? You want to call it a contest? We had a contest last week. We started talking about becoming one, and there was a book that we wanted to give away just as a gift from us to share with you to help you along your journey in your relationship. And here were the instructions. They were very easy. Number 1, all you had to do was
say hello and give us your name and your city.
Actually, just a city. Just say hello.
Their name's already on there.
Just say hello and put your city. That was number 1. Number 2 was
share this video with 3 friends, or tag 3 friends.
Tag 3 friends. That's all you had to do in the comments below, and your name would have been entered in our drawing for 5 books. Now, this is the book that we're giving away. It's called Becoming One. And there's a, I guess you call it subtitle, or what do you call those?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But anyway, Becoming One, emotionally, spiritually, and her favorite, sexually. So what we want to do, we want to continue where we left off last week, because we were really starting to get into some good information. And if you feel like chiming in, definitely do that. We had one of my schoolmates from college, Rebecca. She had shared some information with us, and it was really good. And we hope that we had a chance to, share with her some nuggets to help her along. And I hope that she'll be in tonight and she'll be sharing again. So I need to put on some eyes, because I'm getting to that stage to where everything is blurry now. They say that comes with age. Oh, the other thing, last week, keep me in your prayers, guys. Last week, we had to drive out to San Diego. I had an MRI scheduled for 9:45 p.m. And it's an hour and a half from here, because that's where my, regular doctor is. So, silly me. Instead of scheduling for this area, I scheduled for San Diego show. I dragged baby girl out to make that drive with me.
To becoming one.
That's all a part of 2 becoming one, y'all. But anyway, I'm going through some more series of testing for my back. I had an accident years ago, and it's starting to really come back and bother me now, that it's affecting me in such a way that I really don't like. And so now they're doing more testing, and I now have to go and talk to a surgeon, a specialist. So you guys keep me in your prayers, because I really don't want surgery on my back. But, I know that everything is in the hands of the Lord, and those doctors have their degree and their education for a reason, and God gives them knowledge. So, we put our trust in God, but yet again, we have to put our trust in man as well. So with that, Christine is going to talk about the 3 of the 5 winners that actually followed the instructions last week, but we also have a little surprise for you for this week.
All right, so our 3 winners last week, and you can also, we have a couple books that we want to give out tonight. So say hello with the city that you're from, and then tag 3 friends who you know would benefit with the subject topic of 2 becoming one. And so our 3 winners are Marie from Fremont, California. Congratulations. And Erica Adams from Oakland, California.
Oaktown.
And then we have Marion Williams.
Ooh, homegirl.
Right here from Southern California, sunny San Diego. So will the 3 of you please inbox us your home mailing address, and we'll make sure we get those books automatically mailed to you. So congratulations. And tonight we're once again going to give out 2 more books. We would like to find some winners, and all you have to do is give us a shout out with your city you're from and tag 3 friends that would benefit from the subject topic of becoming one. So let's get into it.
Definitely. And we know that with this, inside this book, there's a lot of good information on two becoming one and what it really means to two becoming one. And this is what we're talking about in our series this week, because we know that with God's help, you can make your marriage and your relationship all it should be and all you crave it to be and all that you desire it to be, no matter what it is or how it is right now, okay? So where we left off last week, we were talking about what does two becoming one mean? And I kind of gave a definition of what two becoming one means far as Mr. Webster is concerned. And he says, or actually we were talking about cleave. That's what it was. I gave you a definition on cleave. And, you know, we talk about cleaving in the Bible. You know, when a man marries a woman, he cleaves, leaves his mom and dad, and he cleaves. You know that scripture. But what cleave means in the natural, as far as to adhere firmly to and closely or loyally and unwaveringly. That means you are with that person close. You are stuck to that person like glue. You know, if you guys are together, you guys are together, right?
Rough.
And I'm like, that's that visual aid for you. But becoming one is more than becoming of one mind. This is something that we talked about last week. It's more than becoming of one soul. It's more than becoming of one heart. It's becoming something that is more spiritually in mind. This is what we want to kind of move this to. Now, this isn't a Bible study. You know, I don't have anything against Bible study, ask her. But we want to keep this on practical applications for you. But because we are Christians, we are a child of God, children of God, we want this to be spiritually founded and have spiritual foundations for you, because it's important as children of God. Husbands and wives are more than physical. Would you agree? Husband and wives are more than physical. People say, I want to get married because I want to knock it out. I want to, you know, it's more than that. Okay. I know it's hard to comprehend that, but it is. Marriage is more than being physical. Marriage is intended to be a divine institution, and it on a spiritual level. Okay. On a spiritual level, husbands and wives in your relationships are capable of a unique and wondrous unity. We became one when we got married. We said our vows, you know, before man. Now, we talk about far as closeness. We talk about far as being one. Now, when we were dating, we were one, I guess you say spiritually, one in heart, one in mind, one in body, as far as to say how close we were because of our relationship and how God brought us together. So in our hearts and spiritually, we felt that we were one and the same. But until we became, I guess, matrimonied, you know, where we stood before man and stood before witnesses, it became earthly legal. Because we was heavenly legal. You know, I don't care what y'all say. We was heavenly legal because we were purposed partners from heaven. But that's another story. But we became one in man's eyes legally with the state of California and the county of Riverside, because now we had a man, you know, perform our services and we had witnesses. So on a spiritual level, husbands and wives are capable of a unique, wondrous unity. And on that level, okay, becoming one refers to intimacy. So, the intimacy of God. Are you even with me?
He's following these notes, and I'm just feeling like I am at a class. Just listening.
I'm all about notes because I don't want to talk off the top of my head and give y'all stuff that ain't right?
No.
But the intimacy of God.
He's a teacher.
You know what I'm saying? The intimacy of God, okay, created you for awaits you. Whatever God created you for, He created you to be an intimate being. There's Erica. Hey, Erica, congratulations. You were one of our winners tonight.
Erica, you're just chiming in. Last week, we appreciate you. You followed the instructions. You put what city you're from, and you tagged the video with 3 friends. And so we're going to send you the book, Becoming One. Make sure you inbox us your mailing address so we can get that book over to you.
Definitely. Congratulations on that.
I haven't seen anyone chime in yet. You don't want the book? You don't want a free book?
Y'all don't like reading? Hey, free. If it's free, it's for me. It might not be for you, but if it's a book that's going to help you in your relationship, it's a book that's going to help you in your finances, if it's a book that's going to help you in life, and somebody wants to give it to you free, well, hello. Why not?
You're welcome, Erica.
You're welcome.
Listen, you guys, we're talking about becoming one, and Malachi and I had decided and discussed that we're bringing topics to you that are relevant to our personal lives, a journey that we're going to go through together, and we're going to share some of our experiences with you, our ups and our downs, our challenges, where we're having success in and where we're having maybe some challenges in. But even prior to becoming married and even prior to meeting Malachi, I was preparing myself emotionally, mentally to be married, because that was one of my deepest desires. And I knew that part of my life's purpose, was to be someone's helpmeet. I knew there was someone out there that could, that God had created within me the gifts and the talents and the skills, but it was going to take preparation. I had to, in many cases, act as if. And so what we want to do with tonight's show and the shows moving forward, when we're talking about love and relationships, and especially our subject topic of becoming one, is all about preparation. If you are single right now, this is a preparation period for you if this is something you desire. If you are already married, how can you take your relationship and your marriage to a whole new level by being united in one, like Malachi said, in our mindset, in our actions, in our emotions, in our decisions? How can we come together in agreement? Because the Bible says, how can two walk together except they agree? Right.
You know, if we were going to be together, we have to come to an agreement on certain things in our lives. And that could be in every area of our lives. It could be financial. You know, we need to come to agreements on finances. Who's going to take care of the finances? Who's going to write the bills? Even though we do this together, you know, but still someone has to take control of that and be a good steward over the finances, because even though you're taking over the finances doesn't mean that you have a key to the city and you can just go buy whatever you want to buy because you know how much is in the budget. Far as spiritually, we needed to come together as one and be in agreement in our prayer life, in our study time, and her time with God, my time with God, our time with God. They all take precedence in us becoming one of one mind and one spirit, one heart, one soul.
Yeah, and I'm reviewing some of Pastor Malachi's notes as far as marriage is concerned, and our topic of becoming one. And in one of his notes, it says that marriage is the arena in which we discover and we are on the way of becoming like God. And marriage truly is. I knew this before going into marriage, that the marriage, the covenant marriage that I was going to get into union with my husband was going to be the test of my relationship with the Lord, and what our relationship looked like was, it should, as marriage, be a symbol and what do you call it? Yeah, symbolize.
I guess we're supposed to think alike.
Yeah, and what our relationship with the Holy Spirit looks like. And so our relationship with God is continuously tested. Our faith is tested. The trust that we have in the Lord is tested. His faithfulness to us is also tested. And so in marriage, it's the same thing. It's almost like the way that we practice marriage is how we also develop a unity and an agreement with our Heavenly Father. So,
and we're not marriage counselors, okay? We're not bona fide marriage counselors. Now, that doesn't stop us from sharing marriage advice of what we've gone through, what we're going through, and what we might go through, because that will help you in your own life, in your own walk. What's up, George, Anthony McKinney? Good to see you, my brother. But it's important for you to understand that we're coming from the heart, and we're coming from where we are right now as we talk as far as becoming one and understanding what it takes to become one in your relationship, and not just with your husband or your wife, but this is becoming an intimate relationship with the Lord. Okay, this is a spiritual oneness that you have with God on a very intimate level. We had talked about when a husband and wife become one flesh, they bridge a gap between what is physical and what is spiritual. And what do I mean by that? When I say as far as you bridging a gap, think about it. What does a bridge do? You want to get from one side to another, and there's a gully or there's a river. You build a bridge, and it allows you now to close that gap, and now you can go across. Now, what we've done, basically, and when a husband and wife become one flesh, when we became one flesh, how do you become one flesh when you get married? Well, there's the
sexual. Have sex?
The consummation of it all, right? He's like getting a little shy, you know. But it's the coming together physically, sexually as husband and wives now that you've consummated what you have committed to one another in front of witnesses.
Ooh, let's talk about that. All right, can we get away from our notes? One of the questions I always had when it comes to two becoming one and as it relates to sexuality, you know, when you're single, you always wonder why, if you engage in sexual intercourse outside of the covenant of marriage, there's a lot of things that happen and take place, and that relationship isn't ready for. And a lot of that is that becoming one, and as far as the soul, have you ever heard of soul ties? Have you ever wondered why you're in a relationship, you're intimate with that partner, and when that relationship breaks up, it gets very challenging, especially to a woman with that emotional soul tie. So marriage is the place where God has said, this is where you become one sexually and intimately. This is where a supernatural thing takes place. This is where your two souls enter into this dynamic experience, and it's amazing. So you have to be very careful that you just wait.
Definitely, because what happens when you talk about the physical to the spiritual. Now, if you're just joining us, we have 2 books left that we're giving away. All you have to do in order to be entered into this last drawing is say hi and tag a couple of friends. Okay, we'll leave it to a couple of friends. We said tag 3, but you tag a couple of friends in the comments below, and you'll be entered in a drawing to win the book Becoming One, emotionally, spiritually, and sexually. And so we're talking about the sexual part of our relationship in a marriage, and how a man and a wife, or a husband and wife, become one flesh is through the sexual intercourse, or the sexual side of becoming one. And and I don't want to get too deep on it, because now you come from mortal to immortality. Okay, first natural, then spiritual. Now you're entering into a level of mortal to immortality, because between what is merely human and what is godly, okay, when a man, let me see if I can slow this down. When a man and a wife gets married, when a man and a woman gets married, okay, it goes from the natural to a spiritual intimacy. It's a tie with God like none other. That's why God looks at marriage so profoundly, because it's tying back to Him in a very intimate way, a very spiritual way. When you look at Adam and Eve, when God created Adam and He did everything else with Adam in the garden, but all of a sudden He looked and said, you know what? He doesn't have a mate. He doesn't have someone to help him. He doesn't have someone to love him, okay, like I love him. So He made a woman from His flesh, from His bones, from everything that was Adam's makeup. He created Eve and brought her to Him, that they can become one flesh now. There were 2 souls that became one. We'll talk about that, but there were 2 souls, okay, that became one. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's good stuff. Stick with us, because when you start talking about far as the man and a woman, the man and a wife, what they do this on a daily basis. They become one. They're becoming how God is in a spiritual intimacy with God. Okay, people say,
What?
how often do you have sex? How often do you have sex? People ask that in their relationship, well, we have sex, once every 3 months, or we have sex every other week, or every other night, or I don't know how often y'all have sex that are married, but you're doing this on a daily basis, hopefully, she's laughing. If you can keep up, whatever, right? But they do this on a daily basis, and a way that only two people who are married can do. Did you hear me? Only that two married people can do is come together sexually and be a very spiritual intimacy with God in such a special way. Okay? What this means is the husband and wife are truly capable of a unique and wondrous unity between them, and it's a double oneness. It's a double oneness. So when you talk about far as some of the questions that you might have gotten before you got married, or even now that you got married, what were some of the questions that you received from single women that are now looking for a mate, looking for a partner, a purpose partner? Because I had an incident where a young lady wanted to know about, having sex before marriage, because the guy that she was dating, okay, he was a new Christian, and he wanted to have sex with her. And she was like, oh, she gave in. It happens. She gave in. And she felt bad about that because she really loved the Lord, and she wanted to do what God had called her to do. But yet this guy wanted more of her sexually, because now they have entered into that realm of spiritual oneness. So wow. Some of the questions that you had addressed, about young women and their, like you said, soul ties with other men, and how important it is for them to wait, because when you come together outside of marriage, there's a soul tie, and you wonder why the woman is having all these emotional different difficulties, because you're so tied to the person that you slept with.
Yeah. It's good. I don't know how to add on top of that. I mean, it's just real. I mean, we're all hopefully adults watching this, 18 and over, right? Unless you're a virgin and you haven't had intimacy with another person, hopefully of the opposite sex, then you're going to experience some soul ties. You're going to experience, especially women. I'm not a man. I don't know how men think. But for women, I know for me personally in my single season, that the relationships that I had went into where I had intimacy and without marriage, those were very challenging relationships to let go of. There was a lot of confusion involved. There was a mistrust involved. There was a lack of respect. One of my spiritual mentors, Pastor Seth Reynolds, he mentioned that if a man and a woman engage in sexual intimacy prior to marriage, then he's basically giving his right up to be respected if they ever decide to get married. There's going to be a lack of trust there, because in her mindset, she's thinking, well, if you could not have that self-discipline prior to being married with me, well, what makes me think that you might not have that same self-discipline when we get married to potentially go outside of our marriage? So sometimes those questions arise. The beautiful thing is, ladies and gentlemen, is that in the event that you do happen to slip up and have sexual intimacy outside of marriage, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean that if you do get married, your marriage isn't going to work. I mean, I don't have all the answers. I am not an all-knowing person. I am not God. I don't know all the answers. I don't even understand the Bible 100%. I am limited in my knowledge and in my understanding. However, what I do know is that God is a God of forgiveness. And what I do know is that God is a God of second chances. And what I do know is God is a God of restoration. And all those beautiful and hopeful things can happen in your life even after the fact, even though we do sin. However, if you're in a position where you can wait, we encourage you to wait. We encourage you to do it God's way. We encourage you to follow the order that God has for you, and you will experience the greatest fulfillment that you can ever experience, and the love and the respect and the agreement and the unity and all the things that you desire in a relationship and in marriage is possible for you and will be easier for you if you just do it the Lord's way. And that's really what this show is all about, is helping and encouraging you to do it God's way.
And that's important. What she's saying is about doing it God's way. Because what I shared with the young lady was, what's more important? You keeping him sexually happy outside of marriage, or your relationship with God? Yeah. That's what you have to think about. What's more important? Your relationship and walk with Christ, or your physical gratification? Okay, so who are you satisfying? Self? Or are you really satisfying the Lord in your walk? And so she basically said, it's God. And I told her, I said, then you go back and you tell that guy, that he's not young, but tell that man that if you desire to have a relationship with me and you love me like you say you love me, then this is what we are going to do. We're going to do it God's way, and we're going to become friends. We're going to go back to that friend zone, and we are going to walk with Christ as brother and sister of the Lord. Now, just see what he says after that. If he says, no, I'm out, then you know it was all about a sexual thing. It was all about the physical thing and not the spiritual thing. You want to have a relationship with a person? Yes. There's nothing wrong with having a relationship, a boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever they call it today. What do they call it? My boo or whatever. We all booed up, y'all. But you want to have that with another human, man and woman, have that relationship, and grow together in God and know that God is pleased with your relationship. So if and when that time comes that the man is moved in his heart to ask you to marry you, because he knows that he has heard the voice of God in his prayer time, that you are the one. There's no guessing. There was no guessing with Christine. I knew she was the one because I heard from God. It was more of a spiritual thing than a natural thing, because I locked out the natural. I told her I'd put it on pause. And I'm like, God, put it on pause so when we get married, you bring it back to life. And so those feelings, had to be kind of shut down. We fail, we fall, we get up, right? But we want you to know that in all of your get an understanding, and it's not anything wrong with you telling someone, let's wait. Let's do it God's way.
And I think it's important. Pastor Malachi was talking about, mostly saying about the man wanting to have the intimacy and the sex before marriage and the woman. But a lot of times it could be vice versa. There's a lot of hot women out there. Hot meaning, hot and...
hot to try.
Yeah, and they could be the ones, the main influencer that's engaging or wanting to experience intimacy with a man of God, that maybe he wants to wait. Maybe he's told God he's rededicating his life to the Lord and wants to wait and do it the right way. And so it's not always the men that are the pursuers. Sometimes it's the women who are the ones that pursue sexually. And so either way, man or woman, bottom line is what Malachi said, is that let's set our hearts to do our best to be clean and to do our best to please the Lord. And so we are right at 7:30, and we have committed to have the Malachi and Christine show only last for 30 minutes from 7 to 7:30 Pacific Standard Time every Thursday evening. So we're going to continue this topic. We really want it to be more of a conversational piece. We want to we want to have where we have our notes that we could refer to, but most importantly, that we give you what you need right here and there. And so we ask that next week you invite someone who might be single, who wants to be married and have a wonderful, healthy, loving, godly relationship, or you invite someone who's currently married. Maybe their spouse is not saved, or maybe they've backslidden, or they're just maybe both saved but want to take their relationship more to another level when it comes to their unity and their becoming one. And so whomever those individuals are, definitely invite them to be a part of next show and engage with us, conversate with us, put some comments in there, post something, talk to us.
Ask a question. Like I say, we're not bona fide counselors. However, because I am a licensed minister, elder, ordained, and a pastor now, that we're both pastors now. I was ordained in 80, but I reordained when we got married because the ministry that God has placed us in, now we're in this together. So I was reordained as a pastor over our own ministry now, and she came along with me as a pastor in our ministry. That brings along certain responsibilities in sharing, okay? Now, we're going to have a very special guest that is a bona fide marriage counselor, saved and filled. You know what that means, saved and filled with the Spirit of God, and he's a marriage counselor. He's going to be our guest next month, so you want to keep it locked so you'll know exactly when he's going to come on. That's Pastor Jeff Mitschang, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to be blessed by his words of inspiration and encouragement for married couples in today's society, that you can live saved and be married and have a fruitful and successful marriage.
And if you're out there and you are married, hi, Mom Alice. If you are married and you are having a fruitful marriage, maybe you haven't always been that way, but there are some journeys that you've gone through and you've learned, and now you are at the maybe peak of your marriage. We'd love to get some feedback from you. Maybe even invite you to be on our show and let our listeners listen to your testimony and your story. This is just about helping others. We help you, you help us, we help each other. So we thank you again for listening in to the Malachi and Christine Show. If you are watching this after the live video, just give us your city, where you're from, tag a couple friends, and we'll put you into the drawing. We'll announce the winners on next Thursday.
So good luck to you guys. And remember, we always want you to live, hope, and change. This has been Malachi, and this is Christine. We'll see you on the next show. God bless. And keep me in your prayers, because I definitely don't want to go under the knife. All right, guys. We'll talk to you soon.